Hey everybody, Porkbelly here. Welcome aboard. Today we're looking at steaks. Steaks, barbecue season, steaks. What's not to love, eh? Actually, first of all, we're going to give a little bit of a shout out here to Lillian. She asked a question last week. I don't know that I answered it 100%, but she was asking about the collagen. Where does it come from? I went to Steakman. He laughed at me. He was like, "Come on, buddy. How do you not know this? Come on." Anyway, he knew the answer. Most of the stuff that you buy in the stores for collagen is going to be coming from cow hides. That's where it comes from. I mean, like I said, it's all through the body. It's in the sinew and stuff like that. But what you're buying as a supplement is most likely coming from the hides. Anyway, that's what he told me. We're going with that. That's our answer. Let's get on with today's show. Okay. So what we're going to look at today is a couple of things. We'll quickly start from the beginning. Dry age versus wet age beef. Okay, so dry age beef, many years ago, beef was hanging on a hook. You saw it that way. It's dry aging. So what's happening there is gravity is pulling the meat down. It's stretching it. You have the blood enzymes also breaking the meat fibers down. It's becoming tender. Okay, so today we're doing wet age. They put it in a vacuum bag and they let it sit there for maybe 30 days, 15 days, whatever it is. And again, the blood enzymes are working on it. Blood enzymes work on meat for 28 days only. So anything past that, it's not being broken down anymore. It's done all that process. So that's the end of it. Okay, where the difference comes in, dry age, the meat is shrinking. I did a cutting test one time, and I think in the first week on a hind of beef, it must have lost like $7 or $8 right off the bat, just from shrinking. Okay, so what's happening when it's shrinking? You have your flavors intensifying. Okay, just like a sauce. As you reduce a sauce, it becomes more flavorful, a little stronger, whatever. Right. So that's exactly what's happening. When you're dry aging beef. Can you dry age beef in the fridge? Absolutely not. It's just sitting there, just getting old. That's all it's doing. Wet age, there's no shrinkage. Okay, so you're not getting the flavors being as intense as they could be. All right, so that's the biggest difference right there is the dry age. Who carries dry age anymore? It's, not very many places. I know of one place that is 99%. Dry age only. In the summer, they have to buy some wet aged strip loins and top sirloins to keep up with the demand. Having said that, okay, and this is key right here, okay, when is the best time to buy your steaks? In the winter, okay, freeze them, get them ready, get them then. If you can find a place that, sorry, I'm going to make a bit of a sauce here in a few minutes. There we go. That does dry age beef. Then what you want to do is order one and have it aged for the 28 days, like a whole loin of beef. So that's the sirloin, the tenderloin, and the strip loin. At the end of 28 days, get them to bone it out, freeze it. Okay. Now you've got your steaks for the summer. Okay. You might even get it at a better price. In the summer, steaks are selling like crazy, supply and demand. They're selling too fast to age at all, whether it's dry age or wet age. Okay, so just keep that in mind. So next February, January, February, the butchers are backing up on them if they have the dry age, and they want to move them out. So that's the time. Maybe at this point in time is the time to buy them. But once you get right into summer, they're just going too fast. You're not going to get a nicely aged piece of meat. Okay, so let's see what else. Sometimes you'll see meat and it's got dark spots on it in the counter. Okay, as a butcher, we tell people that's aging. It's not aging. It's just getting old. Okay, there's nothing wrong with a nice bright red piece of meat. Okay. A lot of times, again, I don't know if Dan can move in here a little bit on this. A lot of times, so when meat is dry aged, it will dry age from outside inward. So the fat is on the outside of the animal, and you'll see a dark line here. Okay, you don't see it here because this is all wet aged beef, but that's how you know that it's dry aged and it's aging and drying out properly. Okay, so while Dan is here, let's quickly take a look at some steaks. So what I have here, here we'll move these out of the way for a second. We have a strip loin from one end. Okay, so a strip loin's about this long. So we have this steak comes from one end. That goes into the prime rib. And this end over here, this is a transition piece. So here you have the strip loin muscle, and here you have the sirloin muscle. The thing I have against this particular piece is you get a lot of stuff like this and that. So there's some fatty tissue in there. There's this line of gristle where the separation of the two muscles is. Okay, so try to avoid it just for those reasons. It's like this piece is very tender, and so is this, but you get that that gristle in there. You're paying for gristle. This doesn't have that. Okay, so this particular piece here is, like I said, I cut these myself. Yeah, I cut them a little thin. It's just for demonstration purposes. So this end here comes off next to the ribeye. So the next piece from the ribeye, as you go along, you're going to get a rib steak that looks much like this here. Okay, it's just going to be a solid muscle. As you move down through the ribeye, you're going to get this butter fat right here, and you're going to get this top muscle. Okay, as you move along to the blade end of it, you're going to get a smaller eye. This is actually the ribeye, and this is the ribeye. So you can see the ribeye is getting smaller. Now, this was actually, if you watch the mystery steak, the Mighty Meats version, this was actually the steak from this end here. That was the mystery steak. And, you know, it came in second because it is very, very tasteful. The blade has a lot of flavor. Now, if we look here at these steaks, this here is a top sirloin, okay? We make medallions with these nowadays, just so a little bit smaller. The price of a full sirloin, nobody buys them anymore. At one time, it would have been, you know, 3 times the size of this and have a cap on it and everything, but people are avoiding that today. They're going with individual servings. And this one here is a sirloin as well. It's a little bit thicker, and it's just getting a little smaller. Like I say, every muscle starts off, you know, it might start off small, it gets bigger, and then it gets smaller again. And that's what's happening here and what's happening here and the same here. Okay, this is the strip loin muscle, and it turns into that. Okay, so what is the best buy? Okay, so the best buy in steaks, aside from buying them in the winter, is it comes down to you. Okay, do you want it to be lean like the strip loin? Okay, or do you want it to be a little more flavor with the butter fat? Butter fat is very sweet. Okay, or you can go with the sirloin, which is extremely lean. Okay, the thing that I have against the strip loin, or the sirloin, I mean, sorry about that. The sirloin, what I have against it sometimes is if you get from the very beginning of it, it comes off next to the hip. Okay, and we touched on that a little bit. The hip steaks can be pretty tough. Okay, they make a better roast. So having said that, it's hard to distinguish the first cuts and the center cuts. So you just want to, you know, you want to be aware of that. Make sure it's nice and lean, both sides, you know. If you're buying it out of a meat counter, you can ask the butcher to flip it over. Can I see the other end? Yeah, oh, that looks good. Okay. Yeah, do that. I mean, you're the one spending the money. You should get what you want and what you need, right? So it's your money. You want to make sure you get the best you can, okay?
We've got a question if you want to go to that.
Yeah, let's do that.
Lillian E's asking another question.
Sure.
Best ways to cook extra lean meat?
With a sauce, okay? Okay, so I'm sorry, I was thinking ground meat. The extra lean meat that you're talking about, okay, so the only meat that is consistently extra lean is the hip meat, okay? Even with outside fat, it's generally less than 10% fat. So even with this steak, with all the fat missing that you can see, it's going to be fattier than extra lean meat. Okay, so and like I said earlier, you want to do it as a roast, and you don't want to go past medium. Okay, keep in mind too, folks, that when you do a roast, the temperature is going to rise another 5 degrees after it's cooked and just sitting there. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, come back to me. Thank you for your question, by the way. Okay, so where are we here? We didn't touch on tenderloin. Okay, so tenderloin, very tender. It's the only muscle that comes from the inside bone structure of the animal, and it isn't used a lot. Okay, it's used a little bit for posture. That's about it. It's not a real working muscle, so it's very tender. Okay, having said that, you don't have the flavor that you can have with, say, a ribeye. Okay, so here's the way I put it to people as simply as I can, so you understand. It's a ribeye with the butter, fat, and everything. It's going to be 75-80% tender, 75-80% flavor. Tenderloin, 99% tender, 25% flavor. So it's your call. There is a bit of a price difference, tenderloin being the most expensive. It is that way mostly because you don't get a lot out of an animal. You get a piece this big and maybe this big around, that's it. So you don't get a lot. Okay, it's like the flank. You get 2 flank steaks out of an animal, maybe the size of this plate and about that thick, and that's it. So, supply and demand. So, any more questions?
Well, we have another one. Do you marinate meat in milk, yogurt, or wine?
Okay, it was milk, yogurt, or
Wine.
Wine? Yeah, you can marinate it in wine. I don't know that milk would do anything. I don't see milk as being acidic. Okay, so it depends on what's in your yogurt. Okay, I would think if there's some kind of an acidic fruit in there, it might help. If you're doing it for flavor, maybe.
Yeah.
Probably more. I might be wrong on this. Might be better with a beef or a chicken, but it just depends on how you're using it. If you're going to roll breadcrumbs around it after or something, but there's not really any acidity there to break down the meat. So
it's like
wine would work.
The 60s, more acid the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Like in the 60s. Yeah. Okay, kids, ignore my cameraman. Okay, so primarily what I want to touch on today, because we are not outside barbecuing, we're going to look at sauces. Now, of course, we can always go with your traditional type of barbecue sauce, and they're great. Nothing wrong with them. The only thing is, for me, I don't like to put them on at the beginning. I put them on just before I take the steak off, and that way they don't burn. A lot of sugar in them. They can burn very easily. So you want to be aware of that. One other thing, actually, I do want to say is the sirloin. It can be used for fajitas, stir fries, and things like that. With this, because of the butter, fat, and everything, and there is a bit of gristle in here, it doesn't work as well that way. Same with the strip loin. You could use it, but it's much better barbecued steak, where this the sirloin is a little more versatile. So what I'm actually going to do is I got this indoor grill going. We're going to throw a ribeye on there. You can hear the sizzle. And primarily what I'm going to do today is just show you a couple of different sauces that I like to make that I put on my barbecue steak. Now you can, if you have a gas barbecue and you have the little hot plate on the side, you can use that to make your sauce. I have an indoor hot plate here I'm going to use. Let me just wash off my hands here.
We will be doing a barbecue outside at some point.
Yep.
This is the preparation.
But the thing is, it'll be easier. It'll be easier to do that as a tape show than as a live show. Okay, so I got this pan on. It's heating up a little bit here. We all saw the smoke a little bit earlier. So what I want to do here is I want to put a bit of butter in the pan. Okay, yes, I use butter. I don't use oils. If I'm going to use oil, I like to use olive oil. Okay, but we put a bit of butter in the pan. We got our steak sizzling here. We're going to cook that for a few minutes. Now you might notice too, I got tongs to flip the steak. So the butter's melting. I got some peppercorns here, some whole peppercorns. I find using fresh ones the best. If you don't have fresh, folks, use whatever you have. 100% up to you. Okay, I'm just going to break them down here. And again, I'm not using a real mortar. I'm just ad-libbing with this little spoon, little bowl, and we're breaking them up a little bit like that. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually make a couple of different sauces, and this is just to get the spices, the aromas out, and stuff like that. Okay, so we got some butter in the pan. It's melting, it's sizzling. We're going to add a little bit of 35% cream. We don't need a whole lot. What we don't want to have is boiling like that, because then it'll separate. So I'm just going to turn that down a bit. Okay, and we got that going. Just going to add a little bit more. There we go. And with the butter in that, it makes an excellent, excellent sauce. So once that gets heated up a little bit, like I said, you don't want it to go for too long. You can add your peppercorns in there and heat them up a little bit. Okay, keep stirring it. You can smell the pepper. I'm sure we're all going to start sneezing here in a minute. Okay. So we're just going to cook that down just a little bit. And we're just going to flip that steak over now. Okay, there we go. Got some grill marks on it. It's always nice to see the grill marks. And we're going to just stir that up a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to give that sauce a little bit of a taste. And just to make sure that the pepper's gone through it, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put it in this bowl here for now. Okay, so the idea here is just put that over your steak after you're done barbecuing. So, what every good chef does, we have a couple of spoons here. I don't want you to have too many peppercorns in there, but here, just taste that sauce there, Dan. See what you think of that. There you go. You notice I let him taste it first, eh?
That's really nice.
It's nice and peppery.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit, right? Not too strong. You got the peppers there if you want it strong. Okay, let me just wash the pan up quickly, and we'll get to the next one.
We got a question from Lillian again. How long does it take for meat to be well done?
Depends on the thickness. Hold on here. Let me get over here. So it really depends on the thickness, okay? Now, one of the reasons that I got this particular steak here is it's nice and thick, okay? Versus these fast fry ones, okay? So I have customers come to me all the time, and sorry, I don't mean to keep going out of the shot. The customers will come to me all the time saying, wow, my steak was really well done. It was tough. And, you know, okay, well, what did you buy? Well, I bought a fast fry steak. And how long did you cook it? Well, 10 minutes. So here's the thing. This thick one, I would cook for 10 minutes. If it's going to be fast fry, you have to, you know, only cook it for a couple of minutes on each side. You don't want to go too hard on it, because it'll cook very quickly. Okay, so hence the name, fast fry. So you want to make sure that you cut down your time significantly. And I'm not knocking any particular cookbook here. But cookbooks will say all the time, 20 minutes a pound, half an hour a pound, whatever. Okay, but if the meat is only this thick versus a thicker roast, the thicker roast is going to need more cooking time than a thin roast. And, you know, so you have to be aware of that. If it's thinner, it's going to cook very quickly. If you were to take a pork loin and put it in the oven, doesn't matter if it's this big or this big, an hour and 15, hour and a half, it's going to be done. Okay. Whereas if you take a pork butt, it's much thicker. It's going to take longer to cook. So then you might need 2.5 hours. What I like to do is I like to check everything, maybe after an hour, see how it's doing, especially if it's thin. Check it after an hour. Then I check it again after an hour and 15, knowing that the temperature is going to go up fairly quick. The thing I have against these indoor grills, you can't close it. It doesn't cook on the edges as well. So I always have to go around on the edges and just sear it up a little bit, because any bacteria, as we talked about this before, any bacteria that's on this steak is going to be on the outside. So it's going to be on the edges. So you got to make sure those are done. There's no bacteria inside the meat. Okay, so keep that in mind, that there's no bacteria inside the meat. Okay, so we've got our butter melted again. This is going to be another cream sauce. So we're going to put a little bit of cream in there again. We see it bubbling. I'm going to stir it down a little bit, reduce it. And like if you want the cream to be thicker, great. Keep stirring it and get it down to the thickness that you desire. Okay. So we're just going to move that out of the way for a second. All right. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just kind of heating it up here a little bit. Okay. Now I have a little bit of rosemary. I'm going to put that in the bowl. Probably going to pick up a little bit of the pepper, and that's okay too. And I'm going to crush it down. And we're going to get some flavor from that. How's that sound? Does that sound good? So basically all I'm doing here is I'm opening this up by crushing it a little bit. And it's going to let the flavors go into the cream sauce there. Stir that up before it breaks. And what I mean by break is separate the cream and the milk even further, which you don't want to do. You cannot get it back together again. Okay, so I can really smell the rosemary here, so that's good. I couldn't smell it when I first put it in, but now that I've broken them open a little bit, I can certainly smell them. So we're just going to put them in there. Now the heat's going to react with this as well, and what it's going to do is it's going to add a nice little flavor to the cream. So we're going to let that go for a couple of seconds here. And the longer you do it, the more the essence of the rosemary is going to go into the cream sauce, which is nothing wrong with. How's our steak coming?
There's another question here.
Yeah.
From Denise C. Do you recommend using a digital meat thermometer?
Oh, yeah. If you have one, use it. The best thing is the steak should be around 130. Keep in mind when it rests a little bit, it's going to go up to 135. So, yeah, absolutely. And make sure you put it in the side. Just don't go in that way, especially if it's a fast fried steak. And your burgers, if you're doing burgers, you want that up around 180. Okay, so now we've got the rosemary. You get many peppercorns in that, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good, eh? Heat your mouth up. We should have done that one last.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, let's give this one a try, buddy. I'm going to try that.
That one's really nice.
Yep. Yeah, like if you don't, even with the pepper in my mouth, I can still taste it. Okay, so now we're going to do the next one. And you can see, folks, these sauces don't take long to make. And it's something that's just maybe a little bit nicer than your traditional sugar barbecue sauces. And you know what? Don't get me wrong. I love those. But, I like to show you something a little different you can do. Okay, so now we got some butter going in the pan again. We're going to melt that down. Let's get this steak off the grill here. There we go. Beautiful. Okay, so the steak is ready. So what I want to do now is we're just going to cut a little bit of this steak, try it with each of the sauces. Then the cameraman, he's going to give it a shot. There we go.
My favorite part.
Yeah.
Mm,
How's that? Again, I gave you the pepper first. Eh?
I like it though.
Yeah, yeah. Does it change the flavor much when you here, you want to try this one? When you put it with the meat.
So that one was, oh, okay.
There you go. See the meat there? You want to move in on this a bit? We'll show how nice and pink that still is. I didn't overdo it. I'm sorry, what were you going to say there?
It enhances the steak flavor so much.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's what it should do, right? You don't want it to be overpowering, okay? You can see there, it's all nice and pink still. And, you know, like you can see, I have Montreal steak spice. I have some garlic. I prefer fresh garlic. But you know what? Like I'm always saying here, we're cooking for everybody, okay? And some people like that type of garlic. Some people want fresh garlic. It's totally up to you. You pick the one you want and go with it. Okay, so now we're adding cream again. It should have been called the cream sauce episode. All right, we're going to stir that around. But this time here, okay, what we're going to add is some mushrooms. Okay, so we got those in the pan now, and they're going to turn out wonderful. They're going to mix in with the cream sauce, and we'll go with that. We've got one more sauce after this, which I think we've done before on a taped episode. And Dan at the time told me he didn't care for what I was going to make. He didn't like the ingredients, but he had to admit it was pretty good in the end. So delicious. What's that? Yeah. And what that is, folks, is a blue cheese sauce. We got some blue cheese here. We're going to mix it with the cream. Once you put that with the steak, it really comes together well. Okay. So remember, if you take nothing else away from today, remember thickness. Okay, the thicker the steak, when it looks like it's cooked on the outside, it's perfect. Going to be perfect on the inside. Okay, that's just the way of it. It really is. And if you have a thinner steak like we had here, if it looks like it's done on the outside, it's probably cooked right through. Okay, so just be careful of that. And you don't want to ruin your steaks that way. So, all right. And what did I say about when to buy steaks? Buy them in the winter, freeze them. I remember I read when I first started college back in 1979, there was the instructors gave us a paper that was released, and they said they took a fresh animal, they cut it up, they put it in the freezer. Okay, well, all cut up, wrapped. In the freezer it went. And then about a month, they were going to put it in for 6 months. A month before they took it out, they dry aged a piece of beef, and they cut the steaks. And the report came back that the one was just as tender as the other. But again, what's missing? The flavor. Okay. Funny story. In one place I worked, I had we only used hanging beef, and what happened was a lady said to me one day, she came in, she bought a pound of ground beef. She says, Harry, I got to tell you this. She said, last week I stopped at another store into a bigger grocery store and went in and I bought their ground beef and I made spaghetti. My kids looked at me and they said, you didn't get this from the butcher shop, the ground beef, because it didn't taste the same. And it really does make a difference. Okay, so they'll try to find one today, like I said. You know, if you go to a butcher shop, they might bring one in special for you and hang it and age it for you. And that would be great if they do that. Okay, so now we have a mushroom sauce. So, Dan, what I'd like you to do is just taste the sauce. Tell me if you can taste the mushrooms in it. We're not going to give you any mushroom.
I'll spill it all over the place first.
Yeah. How's that?
I can taste the mushroom.
Yeah, good. So that worked. All right. And again, you can see these sauces don't take long to prepare. All right, so we've got one more. We'll get some butter in the pan.
The idea is here again, because you're barbecuing, you're going to lose all your sauces. See, this is how you would make your sauce.
Yeah. If I was pan frying these steaks, I would use the pan that I'm using for pan frying to make the sauce in, because you get those little bits in the bottom of your frying pan. And when you add the butter to it and you add the cream, then you can scrape them all up, and it makes a wonderful little sauce there with that. Like for years now, if you've been throwing it away, you're wasting a lot of flavor. You're just losing it. So now, once that butter is melted there again, turn it up. And you know what? And that's one reason too why I like to use this little heating element. That way you can see that, hey, you know what? You can do it on there. I mean, you can do it anywhere. You just need heat. You don't want it to be too hot, but you do what you got to do. If you have to take it off the heat every once in a while, take it off the heat. You don't want your sauce to separate. Okay, so for this, the secret to this, and this is the secret to anything that you're doing, is not to use too much. Okay, so here's the blue cheese that I'm going to use. You can see I'm not using a lot. I'm just putting in a little bit. You don't want it to be overpowering. You want it to be enhancing. Okay, so actually, Dan, what I would like you to do is I'm going to put these sauces all together now. Okay, we're going to give them a little mix.
Madness.
Oh, I know. It's crazy, isn't it? But you know what? We like to do experiments here, and we're going to tell you if we like it. Did it work out well? Who knows? Dan's about to tell us. He's my guinea pig here. Thinks he's here to work the camera, but whoop, he's here to do much more than that. I don't want to do it with the blue cheese. The blue cheese can be a little overpowering. It works well on its own, and I know that. So we're just going to let that reduce a little bit there. Okay, and we're going to get Dan a spoon, and he's going to try it, and then he's going to try it with a piece of steak. Try not to spill it.
That's interesting.
Is it interesting?
I would recommend it.
What, is it good?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all those flavors mixed together. Let's see if he's telling the truth here, folks. We're not married, so I don't know why he would lie to me. But nope. You know what? It is good. Let's try it with the steak. That'll be the telltale.
Get a mushroom one?
You want mushroom? There you go, bud. Okay. So now this last sauce is ready. I know he prefers it with the steak.
So delicious.
Yep. And you know what? If you cook it a little bit longer, you're going to get a little more flavor coming out, and that's good too. Maybe another fork. Good thing we do this in my house. Okay, blue cheese. There you go. Try that, Dan. Let us know what you think. He's going to try that. Is it good? He's eating. He doesn't want to smack his gums. So, okay, there we go, folks. Is there any more questions?
Nothing at the moment.
Okay. Anyway, folks, here, you know what? If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to us, and you'll get updates when we're going to do our live shows. Right now, we're kind of moving them around just to see when we're going to get our biggest audience. Appreciate you coming out.
6 people in there.
Yeah.
6 people watching.
Glad to see you. Tell your friends if you enjoyed the show. If you learned something, pass it on. Yeah, I mean, we're having fun. Hopefully, you're having fun too. Before we go, is there any questions?
Nope.
Nope. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had fun. we'll see you next time. I think next time we're going to come on around 7 o'clock in the evening and see what goes on there. Okay, Porkbelly here. Any questions? Find our email, comments, put them in the comment spot. Thanks for tuning in, folks. See you next time on Meat TV.